Hello and welcome to our Fussy Eating webinar. My name is Clare Galway and I am a paediatric health improvement dietitian in the Northern Trust and a member of the Public Health Dietitians Group in Northern Ireland. About me, I am a mum of 2 young children and have used almost all of the strategies that we'll look at during this webinar to help manage fussy eating in my own home. I can tell you that they work if you're consistent with the changes you decide to make. Just some housekeeping before we get started. This is a recorded webinar, so the Q&A function is not available. This webinar contains generalised advice and is correct at the time of recording, which is June 2023. If you need one-to-one support or advice, please speak with your health visitor or GP, who may refer you on to a dietitian. This webinar is property of the Health and Social Care Trusts. We have a whole suite of recorded webinars on our YouTube channel, so do go and have a look and subscribe to Public Health Dietitians. Here's what we are going to cover during this webinar. Is my child a fussy eater? A definition. What affects appetite, or what are the causes of fussy eating? Consequences of fussy eating and what to do if you're concerned. Strategies and helpful tips to help overcome fussy eating, and further resources. So what is fussy eating? Fussy eating can describe a spectrum of behaviours, from disliking a single food, which is normal for all of us and should not be an issue for concern, to disliking several foods, which might be described as mild fussy eating. This webinar will focus on mild fussy eating. Then disliking a large number of foods or missing whole food groups. This is more of an issue as the child will be missing out on essential vitamins, minerals and energy, which are required for growth. This could be classed as more ingrained fussy eating and might need input from the medical team or dietitian. But I will be highlighting later at what point you should seek this help. And then there is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, or RFID. This is the very end of the scale and is more than just fussy eating. Children with RFID are extremely picky eaters and have little interest in eating food. They eat a limited variety of preferred foods, which can lead to poor growth and nutrition, and medical and multidisciplinary team input is needed. We will look at food aversion later in this webinar and at some specific strategies that can help. It is really important that we don't give our children the label of fussy eater or let them hear us say things like, "Oh, he won't eat that." Also, it is normal for a child to show some of these signs from time to time. Consider how they eat over the space of a few days or a week, not just over one day. So here are some of the signs that might indicate you have a fussy eater. Eating a different meal from the rest of the family. Little enjoyment of foods. Limited variety in their diet. Eating very slowly. If mealtimes are a trigger for stress, or if your child has a clear dislike towards certain foods. A bit more about fussy eating. We want to reassure you that it is common. It is a developmental stage, which is often frustrating, and even being aware of that can help these things. Having strategies under your belt and an agreed way forward with the family will make things easier to manage. So fussy eating is common, especially around 12 to 24 months. In fact, 18 months is peak time for a stage called neophobia, which is fear of new foods. Children can become wary of trying new food or even begin to refuse food they previously enjoyed. While this is a normal developmental stage, it can bring out some strong emotions for everyone involved. Fussy eating does usually resolve in time. It is important to remember that your child's appetite might vary from day to day or week to week. Appetite can be dependent on so many factors, and we will look at this on the next slide. Finally, growth rate slows as children get a bit older, so they might be eating less than a younger child in your family, or just not eating as much as they used to, and this is not a reason for concern. There are many possible reasons for lack of appetite in children. Take some time to think as we go through each possible cause and identify if any of these might be relevant, and this can help you to find the appropriate strategy to help tackle fussy eating. The house picture represents problems at home. Children are very good at picking up on how things are in the home. If you are stressed, worried, or annoyed, it might be worth considering if this is impacting on your child and trying to reassure them. The clock is about lack of routine. Does the child know what to expect from a day generally? Are there set meal times and snack times? Is breakfast in the morning part of the routine, or does it change day by day? The TV represents distractions at mealtimes. You may well find that your child eats food better when they are allowed to watch something as they eat, but this is not a healthy habit and takes away from children learning how to eat mindfully and notice their hunger and fullness cues. The plate is about unstructured mealtimes, which is different from the routine we talked about earlier. This one is specific to a mealtime. Do you usually eat together? Is there a clear beginning and end time to meals, or is the child allowed to roam freely in and out from the meal? Are there consistent rules that everyone has to stick to at mealtimes? Parental anxiety. If you're getting frustrated or worried about your child's eating, they may be able to sense this and be put off their food further. The pizza is for portion size. A big helping might be too overwhelming for a child, and it might also be setting your expectations too high as to what you think they should be eating. The high chair is about weaning practices. Perhaps your child was not introduced to the appropriate textures or tastes during weaning and might need more time now to accept them. During those first few months of weaning is when children are most receptive to accepting new tastes and textures. It might take up to 15 to 20 times of offering a food for your child to accept it. Force feeding. I know how frustrating fussy eating can be, but force feeding is definitely not a good option, as it will encourage fear around eating. Attention given for bad behaviour at mealtimes. Children want our attention, and if they get it for refusing food or bad behaviour at mealtimes, then they will keep searching for that. Too many snacks. If there are too many snacks, children won't be hungry for their meals, and this can impact on the whole day's routine. Neophobia, which is fear of new food, which I mentioned earlier, peaks at around 18 months. Tired. Are they getting enough sleep? Finally, illness. For example, constipation, anemia, or dental decay. If it is down to illness, getting medical attention for these might in turn resolve the fussy eating. We'll look now at the consequences of not tackling fussy eating and if the problem persists. Firstly, it is important to note that most fussy eating problems in toddlers and young children will resolve in their own given time. Remember from the previous slides that most children will dislike a certain food, and this is a normal developmental stage. However, if fussy eating does persist, it might hinder the establishing of good eating habits for life, and it is important to stop soon to consider how you can tackle the issue before it becomes a behavioural issue. Fussy eating can have an immediate impact on family life and on other siblings, as mealtimes can become a battleground rather than an enjoyable time. In some cases, a long-term problem can develop, and it can sometimes affect growth. When growth falters, problems may appear in a child's emotional and intellectual development, even into adulthood. This might be more likely with faltering growth before the age of 2. If food intake is low or the range of nutrients eaten is restricted, the child may not have enough of certain nutrients. Low iron intake can lead to iron deficiency or anemia, or lack of calcium and vitamin D could lead to rickets or weak teeth. Lack of vitamins and minerals could lead to cracked lips or hair loss. Poor nutrition can cause a child to have difficulty concentrating in school, and dehydration can leave a child feeling tired and lethargic. If your child is growing well despite being fussy, they are more than likely still managing to get all they need from food. Fussy eating should be tackled first at home, then by a health visitor, and then if it's a case of poor nutrition for a long period, with a dietitian. If you have concerns about your child, you can do a couple of things. Keep an eye on their weight, however not weighing too regularly or obsessively, as it is normal for a child's weight to fluctuate slightly. Check if your child is fitting into the clothes for their age group. You can ask your health visitor if they are following along the centile lines in their growth chart. If your child is missing out on whole food groups, for example, fruit and vegetables, starchy carbohydrates, protein and iron sources, or calcium sources, then they may benefit from a multivitamin. We'll discuss this in more detail later in the webinar. Finally, keep a food diary. Your child's intake should never be based upon one day. Write down what they eat over a few days or a week to get a more accurate record. It is important that you discuss with your health visitor or GP if your child is refusing whole food groups, is in pain, is unable to chew, is lethargic or overtired, or is having few wet or dirty nappies, irregular toileting, or difficulty with toilet training. In the following slides, we are going to discuss a long list of possible strategies that you could use to help tackle fussy eating. Try to pinpoint the cause of fussy eating from that earlier slide for your child, and from there consider which of these strategies would be most appropriate to try out. Remember, you cannot force your child to eat or make them want to eat, but you can provide healthy food and make mealtimes enjoyable. So first of all, eat together. Make mealtimes a social thing. Don't leave your child to sit alone. Sit with them while they are eating, even if you have dinner plans for later on. But do try to eat most of your meals together. It is important that parents and carers act as a good role model for their children. Take the pressure off. Pressure can come in a variety of ways. It may feel like you are encouraging your child to eat, but this can be off-putting for them. It is helpful to put yourself in their shoes. Would you want to return to a dinner table where the conversation revolved around your eating? You felt like you had to finish everything on your plate? You felt pressure to eat something that looked unappetizing to you? The best approach you can take is to pretend that it doesn't bother you whether they eat or not. Try to keep the atmosphere light. Maybe encourage your child to try once or twice, and if it isn't eaten, then remove without comment. It is your job to provide the food and the child's job to decide whether they are going to eat it or not. Next is to have the structure of 3 meals and 2 snacks a day. 2 to 3 snacks a day. Young children have high energy needs for growth, but only small tummies, so they might need frequent meals and snacks to get enough. Children also thrive on routine. This will provide structure to your day, and if you are prepared, then you won't be caught off guard with what to say when your child comes in looking for a snack. You can say, snack time is in half an hour. Try to avoid grazing. Next, keeping track of time. Your child might be a slow eater, so be patient. Talk about all sorts of things, not just food, and give them a chance to eat at their own pace. However, 30 minutes for a meal and 15 minutes for a snack is about right. Don't sit and keep an eye on the clock, but likewise don't sit for an hour after everyone else has left the table to ensure they get every bite finished. We want mealtimes to be a special, grounding, healthy part of a child's routine. Teach them now what you want them to experience about mealtimes as they get older. Milk and water are the best drinks in childhood. Whole milk until the age of 2 and on to semi-skim milk if they're growing and eating well. However, milk is very filling and might reduce appetite for food. Avoid fluids for 35 to 40 minutes before meals to help their appetite. It is recommended that children have 3 portions of dairy or alternatives a day. For example, for 2 to 6-year-olds, that would be 130 to 165 mils of milk, plus 15 to 20 grams of cheese, plus about 100 grams of yogurt. Or for 7 to 14-year-olds, could be in the range of 165 to 220 mils of milk, plus 20 to 25 grams of cheese, plus 100 to 150 grams of yogurt. For 15 to 18-year-olds, it might look more like 220 to 270 mils of milk, 25 to 30 grams of cheese, and 150 grams of yogurt. And this age group needs another portion of calcium, for example, fortified bread. Offering a safe food, one that you know your child enjoys alongside accepted foods, might be really helpful. It will make a child feel happier to stay at the table and be around food. So, for example, if you know that your child doesn't like broccoli so far, if you put the broccoli on the plate alongside a food, for example, pizza, that you know they do love, it will help them to get exposure to the broccoli and maybe have a chance to have a go at it. Offer 2 courses at mealtimes. a savoury one, and a pudding. Puddings such as yogurt, fruit, crumbles, banana and custard, and fruit salad will help children take in calories and nutrients that they need. Having 2 courses at meals also makes it more interesting. The pudding should make up an important contribution to the nutrients that a child needs in a day and not be used as a prize for completing the first course. Role model. Role model the behaviour you want to see. Also be willing to try new foods yourself. Consider inviting friends or peers over that you know have good eating behaviours, but don't openly compare them with your child. Repeat. Ongoing exposure and familiarity is key to a child trying anything new. It might take a lot of times of it being on their plate before they try it. Also try changing up the way it is offered by cooking or presenting it differently. If you usually have the TV on at dinner time or have toys at the table, think about agreeing on some new rules for the house. Try to warn children that dinner time is coming up and what it is that you will be having for dinner. Aim to give a few warnings. For example, dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. We are having chicken, potatoes, and carrots. Then, dinner will be ready in 5 minutes. It is time to turn the TV off and wash your hands. It is okay for very young children to get up from the table during mealtimes, as they find it hard to sit for long periods. However, food should be eaten at your designated place. So if the child wants to eat the food, they must come back to their place to eat it. Alternatives. As parents and carers, we want to make sure our children are well fed and not hungry. It is common to hear that if a child has refused dinner, then they might get some milk or toast before bed. If you keep providing these, a child will learn that they do not need to eat the food that you provide at dinner time. Instead, if your child refuses the meal, let them know that their plate will be available for them if they are hungry. It is okay for them to go to bed without dinner. Be consistent in showing your child that there is only one option at mealtime. Another strategy is to start a meal by offering very small amounts of food. This will prevent a child from becoming overwhelmed by too much on their plate and give them opportunity to taste and play. You can offer more if they finish it. As the parent or carer, you are responsible for what food is served, when and where. Take the opportunity to make the mealtime more interesting by setting up somewhere different once in a while. Children love to feel like they have control, and you can put this into use for mealtimes and snack times. Remember, you are in charge of what is offered, but within this boundary, you can offer choices to your child. For example, would you like peas or carrots with dinner tonight? However, make sure to avoid an open-ended question such as, what would you like for dinner? This is too much control. Use non-food rewards. Your child might start to develop an unhealthy relationship with food if they think of it as a reward for good behaviour. Try rewarding young children with stickers or a trip to the park or a promise to play a game with them, or older children with something that they love, like time on their game or a trip out shopping. Make food fun. The aim is for children to enjoy mealtimes. This might mean presenting food differently, for example, grated carrot instead of boiled carrot, or letting them feed you, or involving them in cooking or setting the table. It could also be allowing them to play with less enjoyed foods away from mealtimes as part of a craft to get them more familiar with food. Make food easy for them. This might mean ensuring you have child-sized cutlery, making sure their seat is in the right place and up high enough to the table, cutting food up for a child or setting a sharing plate in the middle and inviting them to serve themselves from it. It might also help to serve deconstructed meals to your child. For example, instead of tuna pasta bake, serving as tuna and pasta and cheese and sweet corn all separately. You could also put a small serving of the completed tuna pasta bake onto their plate to expose them to it and increase familiarity. Keep up the variety. If you only offer foods that you know your child will eat, the number of foods they accept will get smaller and smaller. Keep up the exposure to foods that have been previously refused and to foods that have never been seen before. Use raw ingredients to create meals at home where possible, and take opportunities to try new foods alongside already accepted foods. You can always make a meal healthier by adding variety from the different food groups. Take a burger, for example. If you get into the rut of presenting this to your child in the same way each time, they might become inflexible and not accepting of anything different. Whereas by setting out lots of ingredients for them to build their own burger, they can be exposed to different tastes and textures. The food acceptance technique can be used when you wish to encourage your child to try a new food. So the first stage of this would be to choose a food together. Which food would you like to try to learn to eat? The first part of this. The second part then would be to smell the food. So at dinner time, if you've set broccoli in front of them and that's the chosen food, all they need to do is to smell the food. The next part of that process would be that they touch it. And that doesn't have to happen in this one meal. It could take them a few times of it sitting on their plate or a few times of them smelling it for them to get to the stage where they touch it. Then they might hold it in their hand. They might be able to give it a kiss as the next stage. They might choose to lick it as the next stage of the process. And maybe even take a small bite, a very small bite. Then you can put a little bit more on their plate the next time. And finally, that would mean that they have gotten used to having this food on their plate, and you can keep putting that on their plate as and when the family is eating it. And then you would start the whole process again with a new food. Portion size. It is difficult to provide guidance on portion sizes, as each child has individual energy requirements based on their age, height, gender, activity levels, and so on. It is best to offer your child a small portion and offer more if it is finished and they're still hungry. Children are often better at regulating their appetite than adults. You could try using your child's fist to guide you. For example, a fist-sized portion of carbohydrates, like potato or pasta, a palm-sized amount of meat or fish, the amount that they can hold in a cupped hand for fruit and vegetables. As a child moves into teenage years, their portions will start to get closer to an adult portion. As promised, we will look at food aversion before we finish. Food aversion causes a person to reject a specific food because your brain tells your body that it is inedible. It also causes your body to react negatively by feeling nauseous or gagging at the sight, scent, or taste of the food. Food aversion can affect anyone, and it can include one food, many foods, or a whole food group. The treatment of a food aversion is very unique to each patient's needs, and it depends on the severity of the aversion. If a child is excluding whole food groups, they will most likely need input and support from the wider medical team. Things that might help are a slow exposure to adverse foods. Keep on offering a food when the opportunity arises. A food might need to be offered up to 20 times before it is accepted. Changing the texture of the food. Sometimes it is not the flavour of the food that is offensive, but the texture. For example, mushrooms. They have a slimy texture when they're cooked, but a completely different texture when they're raw. Try offering foods in different ways. Food chaining is a way of taking a food which is liked and accepted and slowly adding subtle variations to the food to make a bridge to new foods. For example, McDonald's French fries. French fries from other fast food restaurants would be your next step, to French fries that are cooked from a packet, to homemade French fries, to different shaped French fries, for example, curly or chunky, to fried slices of potatoes, to roast potato, and then to mashed potato. And that might take a long, long time to get there. Reduced anxiety around mealtimes. So some therapies that are known to treat food aversion or ARFID in adults are cognitive behaviour therapy and dialectical behaviour therapy. These therapies give individuals the tools and coping mechanisms that allow them to listen to their bodies, rather than listen to their anxiety-provoking thoughts. It is important to ensure a consistent routine around activities and mealtimes. This can be reassuring and help to reduce anxiety around mealtimes. Also, being aware of sensory needs can be helpful in creating a calmer mealtime. For example, limiting noise and smells at each mealtime. As mentioned before, you might need specialised individual advice from a member of a medical team to help manage food aversion. The Eatwell Guide. In terms of what to give your child to eat for a healthy, balanced diet, we have a webinar called Feeding Under Fives, a webinar called Healthy Eating for the Primary School Years, and a webinar on teenage nutrition. And these are all on the YouTube channel, so do go and take a watch of these for more information on healthy eating for these age groups. Vitamins. The Department of Health recommends that all children under the age of 5 are taking a daily multivitamin with vitamins A, C, and D in. For breastfed babies, they need to commence on a vitamin D drop from birth and then on to a multivitamin at 6. Make sure to find a vitamin supplement with 10 micrograms of vitamin D in it. For formula-fed babies, they do not need to commence on a multivitamin until they are drinking less than 500 ml of formula a day. This is probably around the 9-month mark. It is recommended that everyone in the UK from the age of 5 upwards considers taking 10 micrograms of vitamin D during the winter months of October to March. If you are concerned about your child's diet being limited, they may benefit from continuing on a multivitamin. So as we finish, let's recap. What can you and your child do about fussy eating? The parent's role is to take charge of what food is offered to the child, where the food is eaten, and at what time. Parents should role model good eating habits. The key to changing behaviour is consistency. Once you have decided which strategies you want to try with your child, it is so important that you follow through consistently. Otherwise, the strategy won't work. This consistency needs to come from all of the child's caregivers, so make sure to communicate your plans for change with grandparents and nurseries, also with the child themselves, so that they know what to expect. It is also the parent's job to try and make mealtimes more enjoyable and set the tone. Finally, if you do plan to make changes, make sure your goals are SMART. This means they need to be very specific and achievable, with a clear point in the future when you can plan to review whether it's working or not. It is the child's role to decide whether they are going to eat the food that you provide and how much of it they are going to eat. You cannot force them, and mild fussy eaters can be trusted to eat enough. Your child can be involved in this process if they are included in food shopping and cooking, allowed to set the table or fill up cups, given some choice about what they can eat, and having some ownership about what foods they might like to try next. Finally, here are some websites that we would recommend for evidence-based nutrition information. The links to these are in the description box below. And not forgetting our YouTube channel, which has lots more webinars and recipe videos. And that is us. Please complete the short evaluation survey in the description box, as your feedback is really valuable. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that you found it useful. I really encourage you to take the time with this and think through what the causes might be for your child and the best strategies to help. The process of improving fussy eating requires commitment, but it is so worth it. Thanks again, and all the best with your fussy eating journey.